Thank you for joining us. You are listening to the Barry Sable Show with Friends After Dark. Sitting in studio with me today is Joe Miller and Lawrence Casanova, known as Larry. Guys, thank you for joining me this morning. Larry, why don't you tell us, as an engineer and production gentleman of the Barry Sable Show with Joseph, tell us where people can find us.
Thank you, Uncle Barry. You can find us on Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, True Social, Rumble, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere and everywhere on social media. Just search Barry Sable and Friends. Thank you so much.
Wow, we're everywhere. Joe, tell me what propelled you. I know you could talk for Larry as well, and we're going to get his input as to what you young guys, what made you have an interest in politics? For me, as you know, I'm a little older. My interests are golf and fishing and poker and travel and girls in bikinis. I mean, you guys are entrenched in politics. What's going on?
So I got involved in politics in about 2020 when I got elected on my town school board. And I really got involved just because I saw the downfall. I saw the downfall of American government. I saw that the people weren't being heard. I saw government overreach, really. And I just wanted to make sure that the people still had a say and we actually saw the facts that were being given to the people and not just some falsified tale that was being spouted to the people, really.
Well, did you see a difference when you say a transition or so? Did you see the difference of when you were growing up to what you now are acquainted with, what's happening in schools today? And what is the difference, if there is?
100%. So when I was in school, it was more just really students would listen to their teachers for their subjects. They would listen to teachers for the math. They'd listen to their math teacher, history, etc. But now we're seeing a lot that teachers and the schools are getting more involved with the social dynamic of the students and their mental and what goes on behind the school doors and once they leave the school when the bell rings. And the thing is with that, we're just seeing almost more sexualizing of the kids, really, with the different topics about gender, how they identify, all that, the whole 9 yards.
Scary to me. Larry, are you under the same thought process that Joe is? And have you been involved and going to these school board meetings as well?
So Joe has done some great work in the community. He's also done some great work on the front line of these issues. I really can't take a lot of credit for that. I've been more along the lines of helping out behind the scenes, trying to get a message out. I think that the party, if you're going to call
out to who?
To
and how?
The standard American voter. I think that the standard American voter, our party has a problem with messaging or marketing, and we're not independent enough, even though we like to talk about it.
Meaning the Republican Party, our party. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Correct. So it's easier for someone to control you if you don't have your finances in order.
Yep. And
if we don't have the right marketing in place, the message is not resonating with people. No one understands that, the gender and sports debate is rampant in the school boards right now because it's a serial of numbers. Mm-hmm. It's a serial number. It's not named any certain thing.
Joe, let me turn to you. When did you start to see this transition taking place? In other words, you're a young guy. You're 27 years old or 20, correct?
27.
27. So when did you participate and see that this was happening? Has this been going on for a long time? Is this something that's 4 years out, 5 years out, 6 years out? When and why and how did this happen?
Honestly, my personal opinion is it kind of started with COVID. It was a whole different subject back then. When I got elected in 2020, that's when COVID was really affecting the school districts. It was more the mask mandates, pulling the kids out, trying to figure out the co-parenting, basically. That's what the schools are doing. That's when the co-parenting really started. And ever since then, they took a huge jump on really mental health. They saw how COVID was affecting the mental health of students, so they started diving into that a little deeper.
Well, tell me, how did COVID, in your mind, affect the mental health of kids and socialization?
I think it could have went completely differently. I think it was the mandates that affected the mental health more than the actual disease itself. Mm-hmm. Because when you're keeping the kids, we kept the kids out of school for almost basically the whole year of 2020. So they're behind on all STEM classes, all math and science, all around New Jersey. Kids are behind. And on top of that, they never had the socialization. They were really just on their Google Chrome laptop for every subject, did their homework, and then shut it. And then that was it. That was their day. They were told they couldn't go outside. They couldn't meet with their friends. And,
Craziest thing ever.
and then not only that, then I even had some students that were like on the football team or outside at recess. And while they're at practice, they had to keep their mask on
Yeah.
while they're exercising. And it was just to the point where there was just too many restrictions that it really took a toll on all their mental health. And not only them, but the teachers and administration as well.
Yeah, so I don't understand how this woke ideology creeped into schools. Can you tell me from your standpoint of view how that's happened? And when did that happen? I mean, has this been an ongoing thing? Is this something that happened before COVID? You were on the school board for what years?
2020, 2023.
And let's go back in time and say, when did COVID start? In
Like 2019.
in 2019. Well, all I could tell you is that we've had Nicole Stoffer on this show quite a bit. As you know, she's an activist in South Jersey, and she takes her business very serious, and she is a whirling dervish.
She's great.
Yeah, she is. And she fought against masks and things of that nature, and and the things that are going on within the school system today. We, to me, are so far left, and I think kids have been affected in such a bad way. I don't really understand how these kids went from then high school on to college without getting a year or two's education. And I mean, not being able to play sports, not going to a school prom. These things have to take a toll on the mentality because, as you know, once you graduate high school, you can never recoup those years and activities again.
And think about the seniors. The seniors, that
Terrible.
was their last year. That was their last hurrah, and they were at home. They were at home on the Chromebook, and they didn't even walk for graduation. It was virtual graduations. They didn't even get that diploma, handshake, superintendent, all that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So, Larry, I want to skip to this past week. We know that we had elections in South Jersey for the Senate seat that is coming available for the Republican candidates. So we had on this show Curtis Bradshaw, we had Christine Glasner, and we had Justin Murphy. The results, obviously, on Tuesday proved that Curtis Bradshaw is the winner, and he will be going up against Andy Kim. Tell me your thoughts on this election. What concerned you? What didn't concern you? What are your thoughts about Curtis going forward? Why don't you weigh in on us, with us?
I'm definitely excited about Curtis. I think that the landscape politically is shaping up for a Republican to be in that seat for the first time in a very, very long time. If you look at what's happening, Andy Kim will be running as the Democrat, but also Bob Menendez is going to be running as the independent.
Yeah. Is that going to affect, in your mind, votes? Do you think he's going to take votes away from the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, or both?
I think it should definitely rob votes from the Democratic Party at this point that Bob Menendez is running because he still does have a strong base in New Jersey, and it'll be the first time publicly that we see the Democrats being indecisive or divisive on a public stage.
Yeah, so let me ask you a question. Joe has expressed to me many times that he thinks in order to win a blue state such as New Jersey, that you need a Republican that we'll call it is more moderate. So I have to then turn to you, Joe, and say, what do you mean by more moderate? And I leave abortion to the side for a second. What issues do you think you could forego as a Republican to somehow meet the candidates on the other side?
Well, with me, it's some social issues, but it's not really on any issue in particular at that point. It's more that we need someone moderate in the sense that they can work with the other side.
How? Give me an issue. How are they going to work on immigration? How are they going to work on windmills? How are they going to work what's going on in schools? How are they going to work on taxes? How are they going to work on crime? I mean, what issues can you forego? And the Republican Party, as far as I'm concerned, they don't care about a lot of these issues or any of these issues because look at the mess that we're in right now. Lawrence, do you have a
May I
thought
hop
on
in?
that?
May I hop in here?
Go ahead, please.
May I hop in here? So I don't know if between we need a Republican that's more moderate. I think we need a Republican that wins. So if we're looking at the governor's race in 2025, Jack Ciattarelli is out running again. He's won 7 out of 8 elections. The only election he lost was by about 12,000 votes
It was a very slim margin for the
to
Vancouver National.
Murphy. Okay.
Was there issues that he failed to address appropriately that caused him to lose, or it's just a Democratic state? Listen, if you have, as an example, 100,000 people that vote Democratic, and you have 70,000 that vote for Republicans, that's a heavy lift to
I
get
think-
beyond that. How do you get some Democrats to switch over to the Republican side? Do you think in your mind that they are fed up with what's going on in America today?
Without question, and I think this is what's exciting about being involved specifically in Camden County right now, is that Camden County didn't understand Jack when he ran last time, and he lost hard in this county, whereas if it had swung maybe 25,000 votes more, he would have taken the race and we would have had a Republican governor today instead of 4 more years of
Of this
Democratic
nonsense?
debauchery.
Right. Well, I know when we talked to, again, Nicole Stauffer, she's so fed up with Murphy. I don't know, what's the number, 26, 25? What is she always talking about that is so upsetting with what's going on with schools? I know that we're fed up with windmills. Everybody does not approve of windmills down the shore for so many different reasons. As I said, taxes are high. I mean, apparently the Democratic Party has done a poor job in correcting things to make it easier and better for Americans. Are you with me or not?
I agree with that. I think so. Democrats, I feel they have an idealistic approach versus a realistic approach because they're not really worried about finances as much. They're worried because I take I take that issue as an example because they want to go full force, spend millions to the windmills without any research really, in the hopes that it'll help with climate change. I think a lot of Republicans nowadays will agree that climate change is an issue, but they don't want to go about it with throwing a ton of money in it. We
Right.
need to have a realistic approach that also isn't killing everyone's wallet. And that's where I say moderate. We need to kind of come to a compromise with things like that.
Your thoughts, Larry?
Yeah, Uncle Barry, and not to steer the conversation, but can I get your specific opinion on something?
Of course.
So I've lived through 2 big events in the country's history. So when the towers were hit
Mm-hmm.
and now COVID.
Yeah.
So if we were to take that lens and we were looking at both those issues, it seems to me that the government will use emergencies to overstep rights that we have in place. And then all of a sudden, the American people have to abide by certain things that they put in force without any real information as to whether or not it works. We understand that a lot of what they made us do in 2020 with the COVID response was due to Anthony Fauci, and everything about him is being proven wrong and didn't help with stopping the transmission. Yet we had to abide by it in the moment, and if we didn't, we were monsters.
Well, okay, let's dissect your question. Let's take 9/11. And 9/11 is a strong indication that we have been invaded by our enemies throughout the world. So nobody was expecting that. Nobody was thinking about that. And obviously it's a long time ago. And it's a little scary because today, when you look at what's happening with the border and all the people that are coming into this country, let's just say you have 1.8 gotaways. What does that mean, gotaways? It means they've crossed the border, and the Border Patrol couldn't catch up with them.
Oh, my God.
So now we have 1.8 million people that could have bad intentions. We know that we have caught terrorists in this country. And so we know that they're here. So in my world, in my thinking, 9/11 was a warning sign. At that time, everybody became unified. And then all of a sudden, people have forgotten about that. You have a new generation of kids that are going to school and going to colleges. And they're knowledgeable about 9/11, but that doesn't enter into their world because they didn't feel it like we felt it. And then there
Right.
was a generation of people. I watched the other day Pearl Harbor, the movie Pearl Harbor, and what a scary time that was. They weren't, and we weren't ready for that as a country. And bingo, look what happened. So it's very hard for me to digest the pill that this administration has allowed all these people to come into our country for so many different reasons. Financial reasons, it's an issue. We don't know who they are. It's not possible to vet these people. So when we talk about 9/11, it's scary to me because if you somehow manage to affect the energy grid, cell towers, water in this country, you're in trouble. You are really in trouble. And you see that we talk about 30,000 migrants have come here from China. They're not here to rob your glove compartment. Trust me.
That was a
they
crazy
ha-
stat.
Yeah,
Crazy stat.
yeah, they're here for different reasons. So 9/11 was a wake-up call. All of a sudden, forgot about that, and now we're back to no good again. That's number one. Number two, the government really overstepped its boundaries. We were not familiar with a virus such as COVID. So when COVID hit, we were lied to religiously.
Mhm.
In my opinion,
Yeah.
okay, it's only just an opinion, obviously. Fauci is a creepo. They financed some of the Wuhan lab. He knows what was happening there. So I always go back and state the following. Why would you create a Frankenstein without an antidote?
Yeah.
So why are these people messing with something that doesn't exist in society today? So they created this virus. They're wearing space suits,
Yeah.
okay, obviously, and they're giving us a mask.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And so the government was not familiar with that kind of crisis. So when I look back, and then they just influenced us with all lies,
Right.
what they did to kids. If we would have been better off with herd immunity, let everybody get sick at one time and then go through it. They're trying to prevent people from getting sick. So now they keep us at home. They keep our kids, can I tell you something, locked down so they can't go to school. You can't go to churches. People wanted to go for religious services in parking lots. Parking lots. No, you can't do that. 6 feet, you have to be apart. Then Fauci the other day said, no, he never was involved in this 6-foot thing. They screwed us so bad. It's all about follow the money.
Right.
Pharmaceuticals. You were able to wipe your hands with what was it? A spray? I forget.
Right.
You
Right.
know, so the bottom line is they had us hook, line, and sinker. The government was controlling our lives, and that's a scary thought. Your thoughts, Joe. That was a mouthful by me.
No,
No,
I
but
mean,
it had to be
'cause
said. Has
it's
to be
tri-
said.
You know,
Exactly. That's just what they were doing. They took full control and they took advantage. They took advantage of the disease and really just put their own agenda onto it. And then the thing is, they just I feel like they almost did it to tie up Trump's hands. They wanted to put the blame on him. It was the end of his presidency. They wanted to say, this is all Trump's fault. What's happening with people dying, it's all Trump. It's all Trump. When in reality, he had the least amount of knowledge. He had the least amount of knowledge when they've been doing this, like you said. Fauci was involved with Wuhan for years.
But that's why you bring in professional people. Trump is not a doctor. He's not involved with the medical field. So he brings in Fauci. He brings in, what's her name? Oh, my God. She ended up getting sued. Burke. She came in as well. So we're relying on these people. The problem is if you believe in globalization, and that to me is what's happening today, we don't know if someone like Fauci is involved. He lied and he lied and he lied. And to be honest with you, somebody made a boatload of money between
Right.
The sprays or the hand creams that get rid of the
Correct.
infection, okay, and the masks and
The vaccines.
The vaccines, my God, the vaccines. Listen, look how many people are getting sick from the vaccines. And
Right.
it came out that you could not sue
Correct.
any of these companies that are producing this vaccine. So they're insulated.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this was
Before they started production, they got
before
that.
they started.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I didn't get shots, to be honest with you. And I was scared.
I did
was
not either.
afraid and scared of shots. When I say scared, I was scared because in my world, they didn't have enough time to really perfect the vaccine. And obviously, that's what's happened now. So Fauci, to me, is a creepo, and he's backpedaling. If you saw him the other day in the inquiries, I guess the congressional inquiries, he really is a jerk. And we all know it. We all see it. But nobody's held accountable for anything in this country. That's what's scary to me. So tell me, but I didn't really get an answer, so I don't think. So let's go back and revert back to Jersey politics. You two guys love politics. Why really, and what do you foresee as your future in politics, both of you guys?
Joe, why don't you take this one first?
So, I mean, my passion for it really is just to really see the change that has to be done. I'm just seeing a lot of people aren't involved, and then when something goes astray, something doesn't go their way, they're shaking their head wondering, why was that done?
Right.
Why didn't it go the way we wanted? Well, that's because you're not getting the people in place that have that same mindset, that have those ideals that you want in place in the state. So that's really where I wanted to get involved. I want to get involved myself to be that representation, to make sure people's voices were heard. Because right now, in a place where me and Larry are at, and even you, Barry, in New Jersey, we're outnumbered. Camden County alone, they have about, I think it's like 180,000 registered Democrats, 65,000 registered Republicans, and then 135 registered independents. We need to be sure that we get those independents on the same board as Republicans, or else the people with the liberal and Democrat ideology, they're just always going to be winning, unfortunately.
Do you have any interest in running for political positions? Do you foresee that in your horizon down the future?
I do. So besides the school board, I did run for state assembly in District 5. I ran for county commissioner in Camden County. And just because the district we're in it's kind of like an uphill battle somewhat. However, I am running for town council in Audubon. And that actually, we're seeing a lot of change. We're seeing a lot of leeway, more people understanding about the Republicans and everything. I went to the Audubon school had a walkthrough the other day. They invited past board members because we passed a bond for $30 million for renovations that were needed.
A lot of money.
It was a lot of money, but the students needed it, honestly. It was renovations like air conditioning in rooms, getting rid of mold, things like that. And when I went to go take the tour, there was a young gentleman who was on the board with me. He was not on the board anymore, and he even was saying that he never voted Republican in the past, but he is going to be voting for me because he sees just how unbalanced it is right now. He's seeing voices aren't being heard, and it's just going so far left, like you were saying, that almost it's destroying America. It's destroying the whole fabric that we were made on.
So, Larry, let me ask you a question. Do you believe that, let's start with parents, Democratic parents who are used to voting in the Democratic way, are they seeing what's going on in the school systems today? Are they seeing what's going on with real estate taxes? Are they seeing the other issues that Republicans are feeling? Or is their head in the sand? Or are they just used to voting in a certain way, and no matter what, they're not changing their mind? How do you see it?
I think it's hard not to see at this point, even if you've been a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat your entire life. Now, I come from a Democratic household that was, yes, correct. Okay.
All of us.
10, 15 years ago, I was even an elected official on the Democrats at one point because I always believed that being involved in the community. I can't do that any longer, because it's just too far left at this point. But
where's the moderate Democrats? I mean, it doesn't seem like there are any, because every time there is a vote, well, any moderate Democrat swings all the way left. I mean, it's hard for me to believe that parents do not object to boys in girls' sports. Just start with that. Yeah. I mean, I have to tell you something, not to cut into you. Joe brought me to a school board meeting about a month ago, and I was flabbergasted. It was, excuse me, there were kids, K through 12, and they were giving these kids awards. And smack in the middle of this auditorium is a bunch of books on transitioning. And I said to myself, you got to be kidding. You're going to tell me that you don't have a problem as a parent sending your little girl to school, and a teacher says to a little girl, you're a beautiful little girl, but you would have been a great boy. Is there a boy inside of you? And they have books on transitioning for young, affected minds. And they don't think there's anything wrong with this. I can't get my hands around what is happening today. So my question is, how are you going to take people that have been voting for Democrats for so long and show them one by one, you need to take a peek at what's going on?
Honestly, I don't think that is what we're going to be able to do in the beginning. So to touch on that point and some points that you made earlier about being involved in Camden County, we have some very bright stars coming.
Like who?
Well, I will say this. I'm
and
thrilled.
Who could win?
Yeah, listen, I'm thrilled about Joe Miller. Okay, we need more Joe Millers, guys that want to actually be the out front politician. We also need guys that are more along the lines of the Josh Teiferts and the Blake Shibashevskys of the world, where Blake is a volunteer coordinator and he works on GOTV, getting out the vote. Guys that don't mind being behind the scenes and getting organized. We also need very sharp statisticians, or not statisticians. What am I? Strategy guys. Okay, forgive me. The word is the planners, and that's what
people.
And that's what a Josh Teifert is that one of the reasons that Camden County did so well, their supported ticket, column 4 in Camden County, is because Josh Teifert built the plan of what we were going to do to acquire the voters to win in that primary. And what was it? He beat the competition 2-1.
Tell me about Norcross
With
and Tanya Lindell. Can you let's switch gears quickly for that, because I know we only have like 5 minutes left in the session. And Norcross has been in office for so long. He's well banked financially. Lindell isn't. Tell me your thoughts on how could you possibly gain that seat if you just don't have the finances? How do you beat a Goliath? Because there's not a lot of Davids around with slingshots that hit the mark.
It would be the grassroots. It would be with people like Blake, Josh, getting the volunteers out there. I mean, Teddy Liddell could win against Norcross if we really just get the message out. We need to get the message out.
And how would you go about it? Tell me. I want to know specifically, are you going to have town halls? Are you going to do mailers? Are you going to knock on doors? What is the methodology and the strategy?
So with campaigns, we already do all that with every campaign, local, congressional, in Camden County GOP. We already do the door knocking, town halls, fundraisers, that whole 9 yards. However, what we really need to do to beat Norcross is get into cities like Camden, where Republicans are just outnumbered. People already aren't getting out to vote. City like Camden, you hope for a voter turnout of around 13%.
Are people happy with the results of what Norcross has produced over these years? And if so, what has he done to make the people of South Jersey happy?
I think the people that rely on government assistance.
So this is what it's all about.
I think that's the people that really keep voting for Norcross, unfortunately, because he keeps giving it to them. But he doesn't give them a permanent solution. He keeps giving them temporary solution to help them get by with their bills this month, get by their bills this month, et cetera, et cetera. But you need someone like Teddy Liddell that would be like, this is why we have the issue with this economy.
All over the country. It's not just local. It's the same issue. I say it all the time. People have to go to work. If you don't work, you don't eat, especially if you're competent. So I think all these freebies and giving subsidy for housing to pay your bills, food stamps, et cetera, are problematic. And I have to tell you the truth. If I was in office, I probably couldn't get elected because I'd fight against that. I think minorities are going to have big problems going forward because all these Latin people, without an education, they're in landscaping, they're in construction, they're in kitchens and learning how to cook properly. They are applying themselves with limited education, and they're going to get a lot of jobs. I'm not so sure where Americans are going to stand 10 years from now. I think they're going to
But
find
this is
that
the America
in the
they're hoping
gutter.
for.
Huh?
This is the America that Democrats are hoping for. Because when they
Right.
give out those handouts, and like how we were talking earlier, how we had 1.8 million gotaways. Those gotaways are the ones that are going to be voting for them. So they are hoping for this. They are hoping for this because this
They bring them in the
this
country with
brings
they
their
have
victory.
Biden T-shirts on.
exactly.
So I guess the question is because we only have a few minutes left to wrap up, and we've concentrated strictly in South Jersey. That's what this show is about, and that's who you guys are. Tell me, my phone's blowing up here.
Close us out, Barry. Close us out.
Yeah, tell me, how do you think things are going to change in South Jersey? Can we turn this state red? What do we need to do and get it done? Because I'm concerned that if we don't turn Pennsylvania, if we don't turn New Jersey, I know Trump is out there heavily for New York, heavily for California. If we don't start to really change our disposition, I'm concerned that we're going to have trouble winning these states. Your thoughts before we close out, guys. Joe. I mean, you need to do more than what you're doing, because you're not that they've failed, but you're not over the hump. So there needs to be a new strategy. If it isn't what was, New Jersey has to do something
let me hop
different.
in here.
Yeah,
Go
let
ahead,
me
Larry.
let me hop in here.
Go
I
ahead.
think the strategy has changed by guys that are very sharp in Camden County. Again, I've mentioned their names. Okay, I
Yep.
think Josh Teifer is leading this charge. He'd be mad at me for putting his name out there. Honestly, he
Okay.
likes to be behind the scenes and work and use and sharpen his axe. We got to allow the Democrats, who have won a bunch of victories, to stay fat and lazy and go to sleep. And we have to concentrate on getting to our people and being more organized and hustling more and getting them out to vote. Because right now, no one really takes the Republican Party that seriously in Camden County, and that is our advantage. We're not going to win over die-in-the-wool blue Democrats. What we're doing is we're riling them up to go to vote against them, against us.
Well, I'll tell you what would be interesting. I think it would be great if we could get a few of those guys in a session and we pinpoint them exactly how their plans are to win.
That would be
these
awesome.
seats. I think that's what we need to do. Listen, I want to thank Joe Miller, Lawrence Casanova for
Thanks for
joining
having
me
us,
today.
Yeah,
Of course.
Barry, you're
I
the man,
think
Uncle Barry.
You're the best. I think we've accomplished something. We've talked about South Jersey politics. It's important. It's half of our delegation that listen to the Barry Sable Show with friends, and we will see you again soon.